In the research opening, you heard about the consumer surveys that we conducted in Lawrence and Douglas County during October. We're the local research directors, and these are the results of those surveys.
We formed 14 pairs. In a busy place like Rock Chalk Park, we used 2 pairs. We covered Lawrence's 4 corners, plus downtown. My team, Outlier Communications, covered Eudora, Baldwin City, and Lecompton.
We practiced beforehand to make sure that we be consistent in how we interpreted people's responses, marked the surveys, and entered the data.
Especially in the outlying communities, some people were unsure about whether they've dealt with your health department or another one.
We conducted 215 interviews in the 5 zip codes of Lawrence and 3 in Douglas County. Lawrence accounts for 80% of Douglas County's population of 114,000. The remaining 20% live in Eudora, population 6,000, Baldwin City, population 4,500, or Lecompton, population 600. The rest are in unincorporated areas.
In our sample of 215, the 5 Lawrence zip codes represent 73%, and the Douglas County zip codes represent 27%. Since only 20% of the county population lives outside of Lawrence, these towns are slightly overrepresented in the sample. However, we felt this was necessary in order to reflect the needs of these communities.
Here are the demographics. Women represented 60% of our sample, and men 40%. The age distribution shown here indicates that 40 was probably the median age of our respondents. Half were under 40 and half were over 40.
We worked very hard to ensure that Lawrence's college population did not influence our survey. Although our sample was primarily Caucasian, we went to several locations to include people who were African American, Hispanic, Native American, and Asian.
When asked, "Have you had any experience with the Lawrence-Douglas County Health Department?" the responses were nearly even. 108 said yes, and 113 said no.
But when we separated the responses by age, we saw a different picture. Older respondents were much more likely to have had experience with the health department.
For the 50s and 60s, more than half have had experience. The same is true for those in their 30s. For those in their 40s, the no's are slightly more than the yeses.
Only with those in their 20s does no prevail.
We asked people to tell us, what does the health department do for the community? The 2 most frequent replies were keep the community healthy and give vaccinations. 18
people told us they really didn't know. Only 4 said they think that you inspect restaurants. The complete list of these responses is in the research book that you'll receive from Professor Basso.
When we asked people to tell us, what are the health department's strengths? Those who had had experience with you described your team as professional, credible, and friendly.
It's not surprising that 88 people said they didn't know, since half of the people we surveyed had no experience with the health department. This does suggest, however, that there's an opportunity not just to show what you do, but to show who does it.
We asked, have you used clinical services? This question was different from the earlier one, have you had any experience with the health department? But the answers were still predominantly no.
Lecompton is an exception because there were slightly more yes answers than no. These respondents may have used clinic services, but those might not have been yours. Because they're in the Perry-Lecompton School District, they're used to dealing with Jefferson County.
By the same token, Baldwin City is connected with Ottawa, which is the county seat of Franklin County.
We asked people to tell us, how could the health department better serve the community? One respondent said it best, let the people know what they do.
Here you see just some of the comments that people shared with us. Clearly, the public wants to know more about what you do. This came through loud and clear in Lawrence, and even louder and clearer in Eudora, Baldwin City, and Lecompton.
We asked people to tell us how the health department could strengthen communications. People's media habits reflect their loyalty to one main medium, and this depends largely on their age. For example, local newspaper and radio are essential for reaching an older audience.
Social media, including Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, are essential for reaching a younger audience. Younger includes families with kids in school. Neighborhood schools are especially important in reaching people of all ethnicities. Every school now has a Facebook page. Parents have found that checking the school's Facebook page is more reliable than depending on kids to deliver notices in their backpacks.
We also asked people what suggestions they'd like us to share with you. The one word you'll find most often is outreach.
More awareness and better branding tell you that the public is very interested in what you do and would like to know more.
It's important to identify with important causes, especially involving kids, such as safer routes to school and healthy lunches.
It's worth it to reach out to people who may not be able to reach out to you, such as underserved populations and residents of the outlying communities.
Finally, we asked a few other questions, such as what's the health department's least understood function?
Where you're located, who may use your services, what are your services, and how much do they cost?
Another question we asked was what is the health department's reputation in the community?
In Lawrence, you'll hear wholesome, decent, and good. Outside of Lawrence, you'll hear haven't heard anything.
Finally, we asked what else should we have asked, and people said
Nothing. This concludes our presentation. We welcome your questions.